Hi everybody, my name is Michael Bruny-Groth. I am a professional graphic designer. I've got over a decade of experience in the design field. I've worked for branding agencies here in Chicago. I have worked as a freelancer, and in 2018 I began my entrepreneurial career developing software for logo designers. And so today I'd like to talk to you about what are the best logo file formats to send to your clients when you're done with a logo project and packaging up all of the files. In addition, I'd like to give you a demonstration of my software called Logo Package Express, which can help you make all of these file formats and logo variations automatically in a matter of minutes. There's often a lot of confusion at the end of logo projects around what file formats you need to package up and send to your client. Clients can sometimes ask for strange file formats or one-off logo file requests. Can you send me an RGB EPS? I need a vector. I need a PDF. Lots of requests can come from the clients. Vendors, people like printers or embroiderers, they oftentimes use old technologies and they require obscure file formats that you might not have heard of. But I can tell you that these files are all valuable because the moment that you cut a file from your logo package is the moment that your client is going to send you an annoying email asking you for it. So don't let your client interrupt your design workflow, your new project that you're starting. Make sure you send them the right file every time. So which logo file formats do your clients need? Well, it comes down to four simple questions. Who's going to use these logo file formats? Is it going to be primarily your client? Is there going to be another designer on their team who needs the files? Are they doing a web development project? Who is going to be looking at these files? What are they going to be using the files for? Are they making Word documents? Are they printers? Are they working on the web? What will they be using the file for? Where? This is very important too. Are these going to be, is the logo going to be put on trade show banners? Is the logo going to be on signs? Is it going to be on a web app or in a favicon? Where will the logos be used? And lastly, why? Why are the file formats that you're sending to your clients the right files for the job? So let's talk about that first question. Who for? Well, what file formats are going to be best for each type of person depends on what they do. So the client, for example, clients are working typically with things that are day-to-day business tasks for them, right? So things like invoices or Word documents. And they're probably not going to need to open up your file and edit it. So the best file formats for a client are going to be a PDF and web formats like PNG and JPEG that they can use in most of their day-to-day applications. A designer is going to need to do more complicated things with their logo files. They're going to need to open them up and edit them. Perhaps they're applying a custom color for some reason, or maybe they are going to make a poster and they need to modify the logo. But also, these file formats are just easy to place inside of their design programs and are scalable and allow the designer to have the greatest amount of flexibility when working with a logo file. Developers are primarily concerned with things that are going to be digital and on the web or on an app. So developers will want the web file formats of PNG and JPEG, and one of the newer file formats is actually a vector file format for the web called SVG. An SVG is a scalable vector graphic, and it allows the web developer to place in the file and make it any size that they want to on the website. Vendors are going to typically want a PDF. A PDF is going to work for almost all printers, embroiderers, sign shops, whatever. A PDF should work fine, but oftentimes they're using older technology and their workflow requires them to use an EPS. So you'll want to make sure that you make EPS files if you think that your client is going to be sending files off to vendors. Next up, what are these logos being used for? Well, the client is going to be using these files, as I said, for things that they kind of do day to day with their business. This is going to be social media images. They're going to use these file formats in their Word documents and their sales decks in PowerPoint. They're also going to want to put a logo in their email signature. So these are some of the most common things that a client is using your logo files for. Designers, as I said, they have to do more complex things. They're going to be doing web design, banner ads, animations, all the marketing materials, whether that be direct mail or some other form of marketing, and things like brochures and annual reports. These are all sorts of complex things that designers need access to logo files that they can modify and bring into their design programs. Developers, like I said, they're typically doing things on the web. They're either making a website or they're doing app development. Sometimes they'll be doing custom marketing emails for the client, and they can also be doing landing pages for new sales campaigns and that sort of things. Additionally, perhaps blogs. There's all sorts of web presence that your client will have, and developers will need these web files in order to get their brand online. The vendor, they're making things like business cards, the stationery system that you typically design with an identity project. They're going to be doing t-shirts and embroidery, event graphics like conferences and conventions where you need a table or a backdrop made, banner stands, things like vehicle wraps, vehicle decals, and of course, if anybody is still doing direct mail, the vendor is going to be printing that as well. So where do these file formats work best? If you're trying to have a logo that's going to exist on a print material, then a native Illustrator file, a PDF, and an EPS are probably going to be the best files. They're the best because they can be printed at any resolution because they're vector graphic. But also, these file formats can contain print color gamut information. So if you're printing in CMYK or you're printing in Pantone, these file formats can hold that gamut information and those types of swatches, whereas web files, digital files, they cannot be saved with those print color gamuts. So they're going to be in the RGB color space. And files like SVGs, PNGs, and JPEGs are best used on the web. JPEG can additionally be a print file format, but it has to be a set resolution. It's not a vector format, so it can't scale up and down as well. And therefore, I typically recommend you only provide JPEGs as a digital file for use on the web. So why are these file formats the best file formats for the job? We've kind of rambled through a number of file formats and said things like vector and pixel and raster. But what does this mean? Why, in simple terms, are these file formats the best for the job? Okay, if you need a file format that's scalable, say something that needs to be printed at a high resolution, or you need to blow it up to the size of a billboard or scale it down to the size of a business card, if you need a file that is scalable, you want a PDF, Illustrator, SVG, or EPS. And this is because all of these files can contain vector information. Vectors are simply mathematical equations that define a shape and set a color. So you can define a shape to be any size you want with a vector. Editable files are PDF, Illustrator, SVG, and EPS. If your client needs to be able to edit the files, or a designer needs to be able to edit the files, then you want to send them something that they can open up in a design program like Illustrator and have access to the vector artwork. So again, PDFs, Illustrator files, SVGs, and EPSs are all things that can be opened up in a design program and edited. Universal, what does this mean? Universal means that anybody with a computer can open up and preview your file and actually see what it looks like. Oftentimes, clients don't have design programs, but every client will have a PDF reader. Every client will have an operating system that allows them to preview a PNG or a JPEG so they can actually look and see what the file contains. Things like EPSs and Illustrator files, the client will need some sort of design software to open it and look at it. And so when they're going through their files, they're just going to see a file name. They're not going to be able to open it and preview what it looks like. So these files, PDF, PNG, and JPEG, are excellent because anybody at any time can see what they look like. And lastly, transparency. So transparency means that there's not going to be any background to the image. It's just going to be the logo file. And you're going to want this if your logo is ever going to be put on top of a photo or on top of another color. And all of these file formats, PDF, EPS, PNG, SVG, and Illustrator, are all files that can be saved with transparency. Oftentimes, your client will come back to you and say, "Hey, I tried to put my JPEG on this collateral material, and it's got this big white background. How do I get rid of that?" If you want to avoid that problem with your clients, then you're going to want to send one of these file formats. JPEGs are pretty much the only file format that I've talked about which don't have transparency. They must be saved with some type of background. It doesn't matter what color it is. Usually it's white, but JPEGs will always be saved with a background, and therefore they cannot have any transparency. So, after learning about all those different file types and after seeing all of the different places that logos need to be used, you might need more files than you thought. You might need to send more files to your client than you thought, just to cover all your bases. Well, my product, Logo Package Express, is a plugin for Adobe Illustrator that will take just your one final logo design file and automatically create all of the different variations of that logo. So in all black, all white, it'll pick Pantone colors for you. It'll do all of that and export the files into all the file formats that you could need, and it'll organize them into a nice, easy-to-use folder structure for your clients. And if you had to do this manually and create, dozens or even hundreds of logo files, it will definitely take you an hour or more. And with Logo Package Express, you can, with a few clicks, download an entire or export an entire logo package in under 5 minutes. So if you don't mind, I'd like to do a demo of Logo Package Express and show you how it works and how quick it is. Thanks. So once you have downloaded and installed Logo Package Express, the way that you open it inside of Adobe Illustrator is you come to Window, Extensions, and then you choose Logo Package Express from the drop-down menu. And this is the extension window. This is the panel that opens up that contains the extension. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to have a logo file open, like a final artwork logo file. And you simply make a selection of whatever your final artwork is. You come over to the extension and you press Set Logo. What this is going to do is it will open up a new file so that your original artwork remains untouched and just the way you left it. And it brings over the file in exactly the same size and format that it was before. And you can see it brings in the swatches as well. Now, because this was the original artwork was a CMYK file, it has been brought in with the CMYK document color mode as well. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set the different components of your logo. It is totally possible to just generate the full version of the logo, but oftentimes your clients are going to want to have the mark by itself for maybe a favicon or an icon on an app. They're going to want the logo type by itself, and they may even want the tagline. So let's set those different pieces. It's very simple. You just choose the piece from your logo artwork, and then you click Set over in the panel. So I will set the logo type, and I will also set the tagline. Now, you'll notice that I made a mistake and I didn't grab the whole tagline. That's okay. You can just press Delete, and that will reset the component. You choose it again, press set, and we're good to go. So before I generate the logos, it's important to know that there are some settings to look at. So up here in the gear icon is where you can click and get into the settings. The first set of settings is about Pantone conversion. So Logo Package Express will automatically convert your colors into the best Pantone match. But if you already have Pantone colors selected, or you're working from pre-existing brand guidelines, you can choose manual and manually apply the Pantone colors instead. There are settings for inversion, which will allow you to control one specific color variation that I'll show you in a moment. And then you can set your different file formats. So with a print package, you have the options on the left, and with a web package, you have the options on the right. By default, EPS is unchecked because it's just the slowest file to save out. But if you need EPSs, you just go ahead and check that, and we will make them. And finally, there are some scale settings which will allow you to control how big the JPEGs and PNGs are that get exported. So I'm actually going to set that to 288 right now, or actually I'll set it to 1200 pixels, and I'll bring the resolution down to 72. So I know I'll get a 1200 pixel wide JPEG and PNG when I export. Okay, so that's all the boring setting stuff. Now comes the fun part where you actually get to make the logos. So if I press Make Print Logos, you'll see that the extension is just going to zoom through and create all of these different variations of the logo. So the logos are arranged in columns and rows. Each row is a color variation, and each column is a component configuration. And if there's anything in here that you don't want to export, you simply delete it and it will not be included in the package. I like to delete things that are redundant. So for example, I have this full color tagline here, and this is essentially the exact same color. And it's the same for these logo types and marks. So if I delete them, they will not be included in my package. The color variations that are included are an all black version, an all white version. This is the inverted version, which is some white and some elements in color. And that's what that setting, which was about inversion, is for. It allows you to choose kind of what colors are turned white and what colors are not. And then we have a grayscale version and Pantone uncoded and Pantone coded. So as I said, this is the automatic conversion that Logo Package Express does for you. And if we sort of drag up a copy here and make a comparison, you can see that this is a very, very close color match from our automatic Pantone conversion. Now, I've deleted the variations that I don't want. The next thing for me to do is to actually export the print logos. So I'll come back to the extension panel window. I will click Export Print Logos, and then I am given the ability to enter a client name. Usually this is a prefix or it's the client's entire name. And then I can browse for a folder to save my logo packages to. So I'm going to choose this test folder, and now I can create the logo package. And as you can see, the folders and files are automatically being created super quickly. You can see that they all have a good file naming convention, and they are sorted into folders automatically. It's a very, very quick process. And in fact, the print logos are all done now. So once the print logos are done, then if you are providing a complete logo package of both print files and web files, you can come back to the extension and press Make Web Logos. And the only difference visually here is that there are no Pantone options anymore. That's because we don't really need Pantone colors for the web. And again, I will delete those redundant logos that I don't need to include in my package. And now it's a simple matter of exporting the web logos. And I will use the same client name, and I'll use the same directory that I saved to before. Do create logo package. And now you'll see that there are, in addition to these print folders throughout, there's going to now be a digital folder that gets added with our logos. And once this has run through and done everything, I will open up a preview. I'll show you how nice these files are. So let's look at a full color PNG. Open that up. Nice and crisp. It's not cropping into any of the curves. So these are really great exports out of Illustrator. And that is it. That is your complete logo package. It took about 3 minutes to make all of these files. And now you can just zip this up and send it to your client, and they're going to have every file format. They're going to have every variation that they could possibly want, just the logo type, the logo mark, all of these different combinations together. And that's how easy it is to use Logo Package Express. Thank you for watching.